One of my favorite scenes in all of literature is chapter 19 of the Scarlet Letter, entitled The Child at the Brookside. It's the scene in which Hester and Reverend Dimmesdale meet in the woods to plan an escape, and where we see Hester remove the Scarlet Letter from her breast. It's also a scene filled with beauty and a sense of magic, which is what I love about it. Take, for example, the following passage in page 133. By this time, Pearl had reached the margin of the brook and stood on the further side, gazing silently at Esther and the clergyman, who still sat together on the mossy tree trunk, waiting to receive her. Just where she had paused, the brook chanced to form a pool, so smooth and quiet that it reflected a perfect image of her little figure, with all the brilliant picturesqueness of her beauty in its adornment of flowers and wreathed foliage, but more refined and spiritualized than the reality. This image, so nearly identical with the living Pearl, seemed to communicate somewhat of its own shadowy and intangible quality to the child herself. It was strange the way in which Pearl stood looking so steadfastly at them through the dim medium of the forest gloom. Herself, meanwhile, all glorified with a ray of sunshine that was attracted thitherward as if by a certain sympathy. In the brook beneath stood another child, another and the same, with likewise its ray of golden light. Hester felt herself in some indistinct and tantalizing manner estranged from Pearl, as if the child in her lonely ramble through the forest had strayed out of the sphere in which she and her mother dwelt together, and was now vainly seeking to return to it. In this chapter, we witness Pearl unwilling to cross this brook in order to meet Hester and Reverend Dimmesdale. Her unwillingness to cross, triggered by the presence of the Reverend and the oddity of seeing her mother without the Scarlet Letter, ultimately comes to represent a disconnection between Pearl's world and the world of her parents. In a sense, for Pearl, crossing the brook is like crossing the Rubicon. If Pearl must cross to their side, she will not be able to return to her world, and must instead face the struggles that await her. There is a coming of age required of Pearl in the scene which she is not ready to undertake. She is not ready to leave the mystery of the Scarlet Letter behind. Pearl is an intelligent and observant child. In noticing Reverend Dimmesdale constantly putting his hand over his heart, Pearl tells Esther that the reason she wears the Scarlet Letter is for the same reason that the minister keeps his hand over his heart. This points to Pearl's intuitive notion that there is a relationship between Esther and Dimmesdale. However, I argue that elfish as she seems, Pearl is still an innocent 7-year-old child. The relationships she discerns between Esther and Dimmesdale is confined to an asexual relationship between the hand over his heart and the Scarlet Letter on Hester's bosom. This relationship is such an integral part of Pearl's imagination that when she stands on the brook opposite her parents and sees that the Reverend's hand stole over his heart, her attention is naturally drawn to Hester's bosom. There, she sees no Scarlet Letter. She will not cross the brook until the Scarlet Letter is back in its place. Pearl's world consists of the Scarlet Letter. The cognitive association of the symbol to the mother is entrenched by 7 years of observation. The Scarlet Letter becomes a metonymy representing the mother. For example, when Hester places the Scarlet Letter on her bosom once again, Pearl exclaims, "Now thou art my mother indeed." Also, Pearl's world consists of the mystery behind the Scarlet Letter. She wants to solve that mystery with constant questions and association to Dimmesdale's hand over his heart or to the black man who marks people's breasts. And this, all she has known in life, is what Hester and Dimmesdale want to get rid of. They are planning on leaving New England and any trace of the Scarlet Letter. They want to leave it all behind. The world Hester and Dimmesdale see before them, represented by the lack of the Scarlet Letter, is precisely what stops Pearl from crossing that brook. She cannot descry the world she had known in her mother and in the Scarlet Letter, and this hinders her ability to move forth. Esther also felt estranged from Pearl, as if the child had strayed out of the sphere in which she and her mother dwelt together. This divide that arises between mother and child derives not from the child straying off of the path, but from the mother's removal of the world the child has known and is not ready to leave behind. As the narrative clarifies, the child and mother were estranged, but through Hester's fault, not Pearl's. Esther attempts to invite Pearl into a world that consists of Reverend Dimmesdale and the unadorned mother. That world is just beyond her side of the brook, but Pearl cannot cross to it because the image that elicits authority is not present. If Pearl must choose the new world, she must leave the Scarlet Letter world behind. It would be a coming-of-age situation which her young mind cannot fully grasp or accept yet. She rather wants her mother, who is the Scarlet Letter, and this points to the isolation in Pearl's narrow-lived world.